Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how we make this super waffle stitch. Now you can see that this stitch is made up of these lovely grids here, hence the name. It is a simple 2-row repeat once we get going. Now it turns out nice and squashy, so it's ideal for blankets, throws, maybe scarves. You can make up nice washcloths if you're going to use some 100% cotton. In this example piece that I'm going to be showing you, you can see at each side we have these 2 rows coming up here, which leaves it quite neat, but also just at the end, this is why I haven't fastened off just yet, I will just show you very quickly how I put a simple, just a 1-row border around my finished piece. It just neatens it off. It's not essential, you could just leave it like this if you chose to. So for this example today, I'm going to be showing you using James C. Brett. It's super soft baby Aran. Now it's in this lovely lilac colour, but they don't actually give you a shade name. The shade is BA3. So I will pop the link to everything that I use down below. It's 100% acrylic and it's just nice. It's just a nice yarn to use for this example. It's nice and squishy, nice and soft. I'm going to be using a size 5mm hook. These are my Clover & More hooks. They're my favourite ones to use. It's also a size H. I have a small pair of scissors and a darning needle for my ends. Now you can make this up in whatever size that you like. Each of these grids here is 3 stitches. So your starting chain needs to be divisible by 3. So I would suggest that you just chain 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 until you get to the width that you require. Then what we're going to do for this extra part along the side is to start with, we're going to add 4. So I'm going to show you, I have 7 grids along here. So times that by 3, I need to start with a starting chain of 21 and then I'm going to add 4. So I'm going to start with a chain of 25. We need to start by putting a slip knot on our hook. Now you can do this whatever way you like. This is just how I do mine. So I wrap my yarn around, I come across, I go under with my hook, grab that yarn, pull it through, take my fingers out, and there you go, we are on. So as I say, I'm going to start with a chain of 25. So let's grab the yarn, pull through, that's 1, grab the yarn, pull through, that's 2. So carry on until you're at 25 or whatever number you're crocheting to. That's 3, 4, 5, 23, 24 and 25. So now we're going to be working along this chain. Now in row 1, this is going to be slightly different. Once we get to row 2 and 3, we're going to repeat those. But in row 1, we are just going to be putting UK trebles along this chain. So that's UK trebles, that'll be US doubles. So I'm going to start in the second chain from my hook, so not this one here, and I'm going to put my first treble. So just to recap, a treble is yarn over first, push through, grab your yarn, pull it through, so you have 3 on your hook, grab the yarn, pull through 2, grab the yarn, pull through 2. So we're going to do that in the next chain. So it's yarn over, push through, grab the yarn, pull through. So I have 3 loops on my hook. Grab the yarn, pull through 2, grab the yarn, pull through 2. So all along this chain, we want to be putting in our UK trebles. So just to recap, a UK treble is a US double. So go all the way along and I will meet you at the other end. So I finished row 1, I've come all the way along my chain putting in those UK trebles. Now if you count your stitches along, I now have 24 stitches and I will keep with those 24 stitches now going up. So whatever you started with, your starting chain divisible by 3, you will now have an extra 3 on top. Now the reason that we have these, as I said before, these grids are made up of 1, 2, 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We have an extra 1, 2 on this end and an extra 1 on this end. So I want to have 7 grids, so 21 plus an extra 3. I should now have 24 stitches. Now we're going to start row 2. Now I like to chain up before I actually flip my work. So I am going to do a chain 2 up. I'm going to flip my work. Now this chain 2 up is going to count as my first treble. So if you see this first stitch here, I'm going to count this chain 2 up as my first treble. If I don't do that, I'm going to end up with bumps going all the way up and I don't really want that. So if you see our first stitch of the row before, this is going to count as a treble coming out of the top of that first stitch. Now we're going to start to make our grids. So this second stitch along, normally if we were to put a treble in the top of this, we would go through the V at the top, but we're going to do a front post treble. Now I'm going to do this a few times so that you can see what I'm doing. So this is our post. Okay, this bit here. So to do a front post treble, you are going to yarn over first. We are going to do from front to back and then come back up at the front. We are then going to grab our yarn, pull it through. So like normal, we have 3 loops on our hook. Grab that yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2, and that is our front post treble. So you can see it's popped this post here forward slightly. In these next 2 stitches along, we are just going to treble as normal in the top of that stitch. So it's just yarn over, push through the top of that stitch, pull through, grab the yarn, pull through 2 and pull through 2. In the next stitch, the same thing. We're going to do a treble in the top of that stitch. So let's pull through, grab the yarn, pull through 2, grab the yarn, pull through 2. Okay, so in the top of those 2 stitches, we just did our normal trebles. So if we go to the next stitch here, we're going to do another front post treble. So we need to work on this post here. So again, yarn over. From front to back, we're going to go round, come out at the front again, grab the yarn, pull it through. So we have 3 on our hook, grab that yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. So already you can start to see these are being pushed forward and they'll be forming part of our grids. Now in the next 2, again, we're going to just do normal trebles in the top of those stitches. So the next stitch, we're going to do a treble in the top. In the next stitch, we're going to do a treble in the top. So you can see that our 3 stitch repeat is a front post treble, 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 and then so on. Front post treble, treble, treble. Okay, so I'm going to show you that one again. So in the next stitch, just see where your front post is here. And then what we're going to do, yarn over, go from front to back and then back up in the front. Grab that yarn and pull it through. Grab the yarn, pull through 2. Grab the yarn, pull through 2. So that's another front post treble. In the next 2, we're just going to do our normal trebles in the top of the stitches. Okay, so that's 1 and 2. So just carry along. The next one will be a front post treble. The next 2 stitches, you're just doing your trebles in the tops. And then I will meet you at the end. You should be left with 2 stitches left. I've gone all the way along. I have 2 stitches left. So you can see as we're following the pattern, what I want to do in this next one is a front post treble. And then we will finish each row where we had that chain up, where we did our first turn. We are going to just pop in that last stitch, which is this one here. Sometimes it's a little bit fiddly to see. That's where we just turned to start with. We are just going to put a treble. So if I just show you, you can see these ridges that are popped forward. That's the first part of our grid. Okay, so for row 3, we're going to do a chain 2 up to start with. Then we're going to flip our work. Now again, you can see I'm going to be using this chain 2 up here to be my first treble. What you can also see is that some of these posts here, this one is set back slightly, these 2 are set forward, this one is set back slightly. Now after you've done a few rows, you will see this quite clearly. Now if the post is set back, we do a normal treble in the top of that stitch. If the posts are set forward, they're the posts that we do our front post treble around. But in row 3, this is how we will start each time. This chain 2 up counts as 1 treble. The next stitch, which is this one here, we're going to do a normal treble in the top of that stitch. The next 2 stitches, which you can see are pushed forward, we're going to put a front post treble around each of those. So it's yarn over, from front to back and back out at the front, grab that yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. The next stitch we're going to do a front post treble. Pull through, grab that yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. You can see this next stitch is set slightly back. In the top of this, we're going to do our normal treble. The next 2 stitches are set slightly forward. We're going to put 2 front post trebles. 1, and in this next one, 2. In this next stitch, again you can see this one set slightly back. We're going to do a treble in the top of that stitch. And again, these 2 here are set slightly forward. we're going to put a front post treble in each of those. So you can see along row 3, our 3-row repeat is treble in the top of the stitch, front post treble, front post treble, treble in the top of the stitch, front post treble, front post treble. So carry along all the way along, and I will show you what we do with the last 2 stitches. So I've come all the way along my row 3, carrying on with that pattern. I will have 1 stitch left here, which is slightly set back, so we're doing normal treble in this stitch here. Then where we did our chain 2 up, I'm literally going to put another treble in the top of that chain 2. So it's just 1 normal treble there. And then we're going to finish where we have a chain 2, 1, 2 up. I'm going to put a treble stitch in the top of that chain 2 up. So I try and get 2 loops on my hook as I go through, and I just put a treble stitch in there. So this is the reverse of our work. If we do turn over, you can see that we have formed our first grids along here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just repeat rows 2 and 3 over and over again until we get to the height that we want. So what I'm going to do is talk you through rows 2 and 3 one more time, and then I will leave you to work up as far as you want to go. So we're going to do another row 2. I'm going to start by chaining 2 up. And again, I am going to use that chain 2 up as my first treble. So if you can see, this first stitch here is forward. So we're going to start this row by doing a front post treble. So a front post treble in that stitch. The next 2 stitches are set slightly back, so we're going to put a treble in the top of each stitch. The next stitch is slightly popped forward, so we're going to do a front post treble. The next 2 stitches are set slightly back, so we're going to put trebles in the top of each of those. The next stitch is slightly forward. We're going to do a front post treble. So if you remember for row 2, that was the 3 stitch repeat, was a front post treble, 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 front post treble, 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 and so on all the way along, and then I'll just recap what we did at the end. So I've come to the end here. I have this stitch left here, which is slightly forward, so I'm going to finish with a front post treble, and then where we chained 2 up in the second stitch of that chain 2, I'm going to put 1 treble. Okay, so we're going to do a front post treble. And then our chain 2 up, 1, 2 in the top of that chain 2. Try and get 2 loops on your hook, sometimes it's a little bit fiddly. And then I'm going to finish by putting a treble. Okay, so you can see our grids are forming nicely. So the next row we're going to repeat row 3. So we're going to do a chain 2 up, flip our work. Again, this is going to count as 1 treble coming out of that first stitch. So you can just have a look here. This stitch, as you can see, is slightly set back, so I'll be putting 1 treble in that stitch. These 2 stitches are set forward, so I'll be putting 2 front post trebles. Then it's going to be treble in the top of that stitch, 2 front post trebles, treble in the top of that stitch, 2 front post trebles. So you can see once you get into the swing of this, you're going to see quite easily what stitch that you should be putting in each one. So here we go. So this one is set slightly back, so I'm putting a treble. So you're literally repeating row 3, and that's what you're going to do all the way up. Just go back if you need a recap for row 2 and row 3. Okay, so this next lot of 3 stitches, so we've got one set slightly back, so that's going to be treble in the top stitch, front post treble, etc., all the way along. So I've gone all the way along, and I will have this stitch here left, which is set back, so I'll be putting a treble in there. And then again, your chain 2 up, we'll be putting a treble in there as well. So normal treble in the top of that stitch. And then where we had our chain 1, 2 up, I'm going to put a treble, the best that I can, in that stitch. Okay. Okay, so there you go. So we do have quite a distinct, let me just take that out for a moment, quite a distinct back and front. So the front of your work, you will have these grids. The back of your work, you will have these 2 channels going up all the way along. So you definitely have a front and a back. So what you need to do now is just carry on repeating rows 2 and 3 all the way up. What you will need to do is finish on a row 2 so that your grids are facing upwards, and then you'll be finishing up here, and I will then show you on my other example how to just pop a little simple border around. So carry on up as far as you want to go. So as you can see, I have carried on up. I can count up 6 grids here. So I have finished on a row 2, which means, as I said before, your grid is facing upwards, okay, and you finished over here in the left-hand corner. So you can see we've got these channels running up both sides, so it does finish it off quite nice and neatly anyway, so you don't have to put a border on if you don't want to. It's entirely up to you. If you're using these at home for maybe a washcloth, then I don't know as I would bother to put a border around. Unless you're giving maybe as a gift, then it would be nice. It just finishes it off nicely. So all I'm going to do now is just show you how to do a border using UK double crochet. That is a US single crochet. Okay, so what we're going to do first is just work our way along this side. Okay, so I'm going to start off by doing a chain 1 up just to give me a little bit of height. I'm going to turn my work so I can see the edge that I'm working down. Now you can see these lines coming down here. Now this is all about personal preference. Now I find that if I put in 3 stitches in between each of these lines, so just picking out anywhere really, you want to try and get 2 loops on your hook, just to make it a little bit more secure. Some people like to put 4 stitches in between each grid. I find that that's too many stitches. Some people like to put 2, and then I find that's a little bit too tight. But it just depends on how you crochet. It may pay just to have a little trial to start with. So along these edges here, I'm just going to pick out where 3 places where to put my hook. Okay, and do my UK double. So sorry, for a recap, a UK double is you're just pushing your hook through, grab that yarn, pull it through. So I have 2 loops on my hook, grab the yarn, pull it through. So again, I'm going to try and get 2 loops of that end stitch on there and then pull it through. So you can see it's already started to neaten this edge up. So I've put 3 stitches before I've got to this first ridge here. So I'm going to do another 3. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3 along here. And then I'm going to put 1, 2, 3. Just space them out nice and even. There's no real rules about putting this first row of your border on. It's just wherever you feel that they're just staying nice and even. So as I say, I tried doing 4 stitches within each grid, and you can tell if you've got too many because it starts to ruffle up around the outside. If you don't put enough stitches in, this will pull in and it'll be too tight. So you can see basically each time I'm putting those stitches in the same part of the edge of that grid. Okay, so I'll show you one more time on this one. So I'm going to put 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and there you go. That's neatening that edge up quite nicely. So carry on down to the corner and I will show you what we do here. So when I'm coming down on my last grid here, I'm going to put my third one in a corner stitch. So 1, 2 and 3. But also in that corner stitch, I'm going to put a further 2 double crochets in that same stitch. And then what that in effect does is it takes us around the corner. And then what we do along the bottom edge, you can see we have our starting chain. So I'm just going to use those chains to work my way along. So there's no guesswork here. You're just going to be using those starting chains to work your way along. So this is a bit easy, you don't have to, there's no guesswork involved at all. You know exactly where to put them, you're just using the bottom of those chains. So work your way along here and then I'll show you the corner again. So again, I've worked my way along to that corner stitch. I've put 1 double crochet in. I'm going to put another 2. So each corner needs to have 3 stitches in, and what that does is take you around the corner. Now I'm also, where I had my tail at the beginning, I'm also going to incorporate that as I work up here. So I'm going to work over that so I can get rid of that tail. So again, we're going to be working along this side. So I'm going to be putting in 3 stitches in between these lines here. So first one here, trying to make sure, oops, I grab 2 loops on my hook and I'm going to incorporate that tail. So that's 1, 2 and 3. Okay, and then I'm going to let my tail go because I can weave that one in at the end. So again, work away up this edge here. I'm putting 3 stitches in between these grid lines and I will meet you again at the corner. So again, I've put 1 stitch in that corner. I need to put another 2. 1, 2, which will again take me around the corner, and then all I'm going to do is put 1 double crochet in the top of those V-stitches there, going all the way along, and then I'll meet you here at the end. So I've worked all the way along here. I'm coming up to my final stitch. What I've just quickly done here is just mark where we started. This was the first stitch that I put in when we went down our edge here. So if you remember, all we did was start stitching. We didn't do the corner properly. So I'm just again going to add in that stitch another 2 doubles, so it takes us around the corner, and then in that first stitch I'm just going to slip stitch to join. Okay, so that's a push your hook through, grab that yarn, pull it through, and the one that's on your hook. Then I'm just going to do a chain 1 up, grab my scissors, cut my yarn and cinch that down, oops, as best as possible. And then what I'm going to do when I weave in my end, I'm going to carry on going down. So the way of the flow, I'm going to weave this end in. So I've just threaded up my darning needle, and what I want to do is weave in my ends mainly on the back. So what I'm going to do is that next V along, I'm going to take my yarn through to the back, and then it also helps to cinch that finishing knot down. And then working on the back, I'm literally just going to weave in and out, in and out. I'm going to go down one way for a few stitches. Then what I'm going to do is come back up the other way for a few stitches, and then you know me, I like the rule of 3. So I go back down the other way. So obviously you can do this a little bit neater. It's not always easy to do this part on camera. Okay, so I've gone to and fro 3 times, and that way when this stretches, the ends shouldn't pop out. Oops. So then I'm just going to cut my yarn close to your work, but just make sure you don't cut your work. And then what I'll do is I'll weave this original tail end in as well. But if you remember, I incorporated it one way as I was doing the border. So I'll go this way, that way before I cut off my yarn. And that is our waffle stitch. Now I think you must agree, putting that single round of double crochets all around the edge finishes those edges off nicely. Now you could just keep going round and round. On this border, I believe I've done another couple of rows round, or you could put your own border on, or it doesn't matter if you don't want to put a border on, that's fine. It's not essential, it just neatens things off. So that is the waffle stitch. So please do leave some comments down below. Let me know how you've got on. If you did enjoy this video, then please do give me a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and I will see you here next time. Bye bye.